Shalom, and welcome to chapter 22, our next to last chapter for Hebrew 2. Now, up to this point, we have learned 6 conjugations, or 5, and we're going to learn the 6th one this week. And let's just review our 6 conjugations. There's the Qal perfect, the Qal imperfect, the Qal imperative. We have the infinitive absolute, the infinitive construct, and then today we're going to learn about the Qal participle. Now with the 6th conjugation, this is our last conjugation for the Qal. Now we're not going to go on and learn the other stems because our time doesn't allow us to do that, and we took time to review. But you'll find that as you go through your workbook and your Hebrew book, that the other stems, the Nephal, the Pual, the Pial, Hifil, Hifpoel, and the others, that they are going to have the same basic. There's going to be perfect, imperfect, imperative, infinitive absolute, infinitive construct, and then the participle. That's going to be true for all the other stems. So those are the basic 6 conjugations for all the stems that you're going to be learning about. Now, hopefully you have a sheet like this. It's a laminated sheet that folds out like this. And again, you can take this into your quizzes and your exams with you. This is what I refer to as your cheat sheet. And this will help you immensely and keep you from having to memorize things that just aren't, it's not that there's anything that isn't important. It's just that when we are trying to go through material this quickly, there are some things that are more important than others. And I try very much to hit on just the highlights. Now, with the Qal participle, some of the things that you need to know is that the Hebrew participle is a verbal adjective. It shares features in common with both verbs and adjectives. As a verb, the participle has a stem, which, in our case this week it's Qal. It has a voice, meaning that it's going to be active or passive, and it expresses some type of verbal action such as running or studying. Those words that we would typically add an ing to: walking, cooking, eating, sleeping, studying. As an adjective, the participle has gender, it's masculine or feminine, it has number, it's singular or plural, and it's used like an adjective. It can be attributive, as in the weeping prophet, predicative, as in the prophet is weeping, or substantively, as in the one who weeps. When translating a participle, begin by using the ing form of the verb, as in studying, learning, sleeping, cooking, eating. And that should give you a good start to working towards your translation. Now, with the Qal participle, the active participle, it inflects just like an adjective with both gender and number. It is not inflected for person. The inflectional endings of the participle they're going to be highlighted in red in the sheet that I'm about to show you. What we have here, we have under the singular, we have masculine and 2 feminine forms. We have katal, which is our masculine form, kataloth, and katala. And that's going to be our singular, and both the tau and the hey endings are indicative of feminine. And so the feminine ending can be either one. Now with the plural, we have katalim and kataloth. The masculine is endingless, as you can see. So there isn't really anything new to learn there. With regard to the masculine, it has no ending. And the feminine can either end in the tau or the hey, as I've already said. Now, what makes a participle is the O-class vowel that follows the first root letter. Now, that's going to be a huge key. What makes a participle is that O-class vowel that follows the first root letter. And I want you to say that over and over again. What makes a participle is that O-class vowel following the first root letter. And keep saying that over and over again, because if that's all you walk away with from our time together, that's going to help you a lot. Now, here's the diagnostics. My husband's a medical doctor, and whenever a patient comes in and they're saying, I've got a problem, they don't come in and say, I have fascial tendonitis in some joint of my body. They can't really diagnose themselves because they don't have the training and the background to do that. All they can come in and say is it hurts and point to the place where the pain is. And I have found that parsing Hebrew is a lot like a doctor diagnosing a patient. Sometimes you don't always know what you're looking for and you have to run some tests. And so this is what these cow participle diagnostics is all about. These are the diagnostics for a cow active participle. The holum in the first syllable of all forms is diagnostic of the cow active participle. That's like a woman who comes into his office and says to him, Dr. Williams, I'm having nausea first thing in the morning and I'm just feeling tired and generally just blasé all over. One of the first things he's going to do is run a pregnancy test because she has some of the major symptoms of pregnancy. So if you have a holum in the first syllable, that's big clue that you probably are dealing with a cow participle. So the holum serré vowel pattern is distinctive of the masculine singular cow active participle. And you can see that here, the cow active participle in the strong verb. And you can see that holum serré vowel pattern. The diagnostic holum may also be written as the holum wow, and you can see that here too. Now, it can be found either way, but it's going to be found far more often in this form where you have the holum serré vowel pattern. So if you see that holum serré vowel pattern, that should cause you to go, that's a cow participle in the strong form. Now, I'm not going to really go over the weak verbs with you because, not the majority of them. There are two that are exceptions, but there's always a couple that are exceptions. The weak verbs are gonna act the same way as what you have already learned. So you already know the paradigms for the weak verbs. So just run through those. Also know that you have your friendly cheat sheet that you can take with you and that will help you immensely. Now do read over this in your book, but also note that this is not new material. This is material that you have already had. Now what you are going to run into is that there are two weak forms, and they're the ones that you're going to run into the most frequently, because remember, the ones that are the most frequently used are the ones that break the rules or show the most exceptions to the rules. And of course, as we have already learned, those two weak verbs are the three heys and the biconsonantal. Now, in the three hey, let's look at this. We have this biconsonant. I can't get used to going backwards with this camera. In the three hey verbs, in the singular, we have bonnet and bana and banoye. And that's your singular. And again, you have one masculine and two feminine. In the plural, you have banim and banoth. And that's for your three hey. And that's how their endings are going to be. The three hey verbs are inflected. When the three hey verbs are inflected, the original yod reappears, and that's what you see happening here in the masculine plural as well as in the feminine singular. And and you're gonna need to memorize these paradigms. But again, as you can see, there's not a lot to memorize. So if you have to memorize something, not having to memorize much is a great help. So with your biconsonantals, this is the word that's translated to rise. I don't know if you've had that in vocabulary yet. So you have kam, and that's your masculine singular, and kamat, and that's your feminine singular. You only have one feminine form in the biconsonantal. And then in the plural, you have komim and kamoth. There no O-class vowels follow the initial root letter, and you have a comets in the first vowel form. So this is going to be the exception to the rule about that O-class vowel following the first root letter. So you just need to memorize the three hey and the biconsonantal paradigms because they don't look like any of the others. And you're just going to need to, I mean, there's no other way to do this. You're just going to have to memorize it. But again, at least it's not a ton of material to memorize. And after everything else that you've already memorized this semester, this is no big deal for you. So here we have the cow participle and the uses of the cow active participle. The first use, this is the attributive usage, and the participle modifies a noun. It will follow the noun it modifies, and it's going to agree in gender, number, and definiteness. So if it's attributive, it's going to have to agree in gender, number, and indefiniteness. The sentence that I'm showing you here is, let's see, Ha'am ha'oshed ba'eretz. And it's translated, the people who are dwelling, the people who dwell in the land. And you can see here that it follows the noun, and it follows the noun and it agrees in both gender, number, and indefiniteness. So everything here is definite. But then when you come, and here's another example here of the attributive use. See if I can get this there so you can see it. Yahweh Elohaka Ash Akala. Again, it agrees in gender, number, and definiteness. Look at Ash. It's feminine, it's singular, and it's definite. It's translated fire. And then look at Akala. It's feminine, it's singular, and it's definite. So it's attributive because it agrees in number, gender, and definiteness. And that is your big clue there for the attributive use. Now the next use that we have is the predicative. Now when it's predicative, didn't change my screen here. There we go. That helps me a little bit. When it's predicative, the participle asserts something about a noun. It's going to agree with the number and gender and number, but not indefiniteness. So it can be, as long as it's the same number and gender, it doesn't have to be connected to in its definiteness. With regard to word order, the participle can either precede or follow the noun that it modifies. So you can either try to translate it both ways or just go with the way that makes the most sense, that's the clearest. Now here in this first sentence, Wahahar Boer Boash. And that's translated, and the mountain was burning with fire. With Wahahar, it's masculine, it's singular, and it's definite. And then with Boer, it's masculine, it's singular, and it's indefinite. So here we know that it's going to be predicative, because if it were going to be attributive, they would have to both be definite or both be indefinite. So they're going to have to agree in definiteness. And here's another sentence. Wa Shamuel Shekave Bahakel. And Samuel was lying down in the temple. And here again, Waha Shamuel, masculine, singular, and definite. And remember, all proper names are definite by definition. So if it's a proper name, the name of a person, the name of a location, then it's going to be definite just by definition. So, and then your next Shakave, it's masculine, singular, and indefinite. And so there you have some examples. And then on the substantive, in the substantive usage, the participle is used independently as a noun, indicating the one who performs a certain action. It may function as the subject or object of a verb, take a definite article, appear in a construct chain, or take a pronominal suffix or a prepositional prefix. So with the cow participle in the substantive form, it can do all sorts of crazy things. When you have an adjective or participle functioning like a noun, it can do all the things that a noun can do. Actually, a participle is even more cool than a noun because a participle can do actually more than even a noun can do. So your first sentence here is Walo, Yashon, Shomer, Israel. Now this is a construct chain, and the Shomer Israel is the subject of the verb. Israel, the one who keeps Israel, and he is not going to sleep. So the participle functions like a noun. So it is the one who, or the one, and then who keeps, and that's going to be your substantive cow participle there. Now, what makes a cal active participle? That's a question that I've already answered, but we're going to do it again because this is your mantra for this week. A Holum vowel following the first root vowel, it's the same as the ing of English, and the only exceptions are your three hey and your biconsonantal participles. So, what makes a word a cal active participle? A Holum wa following the first root vowel. That's the big answer to everything for this week. So here's your cal passive strong verb paradigm. Active participle, the subject is doing action of the verb, and the passive participle, the subject, is receiving the action of the verb. So the difference between an active and a passive participle is simply this: an active participle is the active participle, the subject is doing the action of the verb. With a passive participle, the subject is receiving the action of the verb. I'm going to stop there, and I'll be right back with more on the passive cal participle.